Dark Harvest is available online, new horror film based on an apparently successful novel written by Norman Partridge, a novel which I haven't personally read. The film is decidedly low budget, with a cast of mostly unknowns and production design that's definitely more on the humble side. The story in the film happens in the early 1960s in a strange, small American town which is surrounded by cornfields and run by a local organization called the Harvesters Guild. Once a year, on Halloween, a humanoid monster with a pumpkin head rises from the fields and begins to terrorize the town. And the male teenagers partake in a game, in a competition, where whoever manages to find and kill the monster first before it can reach the local church, whoever does that gets a lot of money, a brand new car, and is allowed to leave the otherwise secluded, isolated town and go travel the world. The film opens with one such competition, and then immediately jumps a year forward, following the younger brother of the most recent winner. He now volunteers for the New Year's competition because clearly he wants to prove that he is not worse than his sibling, that he can do it too, that he can bring prosperity to his family. So the film definitely has an interesting vibe. It feels almost like a twisted mirror, Twilight Zone version of American Graffiti in a way, where it wants to tap into the teenage culture of the 1960s. But what looks promising in this regard initially ends up fairly shallow in the end, and at the end of the day, the movie basically relies on a plot twist as its main attraction. And the problem is that that plot twist is remarkably predictable. You can very obviously spot it from 5 minutes in. So when the reveal finally happens in the second half of the film, and the movie treats this as this big thing that recontextualizes and changes our perception of the story, I was like, yeah, I know that already. What else you got? And the movie doesn't really got anything else, if I'm being honest. The creature design is cool, I guess, but aside from that, there's not really a lot to latch onto and get interested in. It's pretty linear, predictable, and standard narrative that doesn't technically do a lot of things wrong, but it also doesn't do anything particularly fresh or original. And without that freshness, without inventiveness, it would have to rely on splendid execution to justify seeing it. And I just don't think that that execution is quite at that level. It's not an awful film, but it is unfortunately pretty mediocre, and I think forgettable.